Hey, welcome back, everyone.
Hello, hello.
All right.
It's been a minute.
Here we are.
Check. 1, 2. Cool.
Josh is here.
Josh
I'm
is
here.
Everybody feels quiet.
I feel like it's been a
I
while,
do feel quiet.
but
Hey,
also
let's get real close.
Except that it hasn't been a while.
because the episode
Not
came
for
out
you guys.
5
Yeah.
days
Not
ago.
for the listeners.
Yeah.
Not for the listeners, because we cranked those episodes out
That's
Power
right.
recorded.
prior to the break.
Yeah, that was rough.
Superpower.
Yep.
It was rough.
Yeah, back in the saddle. Feels good.
I
And we
missed
were.
it.
I did too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Missed the podcast.
And like
Oh,
we
you
were
know I missed
like
it.
for our personal one, we wanted to like. I had such good intention of recording like every week. We're gonna do this, and last time we recorded was like July.
I was
Yeah.
wondering about that.
Yeah, we
was
just. I
like,
mean,
this
things
is
are
taking
chaos. I
over
feel like
your-
every time we're
yeah.
home, we've had the baby a lot. You know, Luna's been around, and when
Yeah.
you've had you started classes,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of times when we have a breather, it's not like, let's talk another hour.
Pull out all the equipment.
Let's pull out all the
Yeah.
equipment
Right.
Let's
and
record
Put
ourselves.
our faces on. And
talk again. I mean,
Right.
yeah. With our personal podcast, though, at least it's just audio. Like
That's true.
We don't have to do the
Oh.
whole. It's just audio. But
Yeah.
yeah,
maybe
we
you should
failed
do
at that this
video.
summer.
I was thinking
No.
about it. We should.
Send it over.
Hate
love
this
it.
idea,
We're
but
sandwiching you with the idea you love.
nope, don't like it at all.
Well, we'll figure
I
it
don't think we need more hurdles.
out. True.
That's
True,
true.
true.
I
Less
don't think we need more
complication.
hurdles
Since we just established that we have no Edelweiss,
that we could remember.
I remember any front desks. Do we want to just jump in?
I think we want to just jump in.
Topic of the day is back to school,
Back to school.
which I feel like is a loaded term for some people.
It is. People have like visceral reactions to
Well,
back
here we
to
go. Around the
school.
table. If you hear the phrase back to school,
Mhm.
what do you feel? Josh, how's that feel?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like it because I love school supplies. So it was like getting school supplies was like one time my mom took me
You have
to a
a Virgo
store
placement
and was like
somewhere?
this. Here,
Yeah.
you can pick
Taurus.
some stuff out. What
Oh,
color?
yeah.
What color folders do you want? Like what kind of notebooks? I'm like, oh my god, I can get this stuff.
Shopping.
Yeah, shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
That was one time a year where I was like so excited to get something. You
School
know?
supplies.
Yeah, and I got to go alone with my mom,
Oh.
which was really special.
Right, 'cause you
that
had-
never happened.
Mad siblings,
Yeah.
right?
One
Oh,
to
that's
five.
nice. She wasn't like all of you in the car. We're
Right.
going.
Because then I wouldn't pick
Ugh.
anything.
Right.
I'd
Yeah.
just take whatever she chose.
Nice.
But yeah, I like back to school, and it means fall for me, which means less sweating.
Cooler weather. Less
Which is the
sweaty.
bomb.
It means less pitta.
It's funny
that's
because
what
as
does. Starting
soon
to
as you
cool
said
off.
it's fall,
Yeah.
I start fall girling, where it's like pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh yeah.
And cozy food, and Josh is like, less sweat. I get it.
Yeah.
Matt's like, getting the crock pot out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not apologizing for any of it. I love
Yeah.
it. Jess.
I feel like I straddle those camps. I like the crock pot
Right.
and I like the less sweaty.
True.
Back
Back to school. How do you feel?
back to school. I'm like trying to. I'm not feeling anything necessarily in my body. It's busy for us.
Okay.
It is busy
right?
for us.
So like, but I actually like busy. So I like when I have a to-do list, I can check off. It was like a like I didn't go to school very well when I was younger, and I passed that on to my offspring, who also didn't go to school very well when she was younger. So there's like that little bit of stress there. Like if I really think too hard about it, and I'm like, oh, but I love fall. It's my favorite season.
Right.
Well, no, spring's my favorite season. I just lied.
Don't lie.
But yeah, it's exciting. There's an
All right.
excitement. Mhm.
I like how you started with, I feel nothing, and then I feel excited.
Yeah, I went to excitement.
All right,
I
good.
dug a little deeper.
Honey, I'm going to assume I know what your answer is, but,
Oh,
I
do you
think-
know my answer?
well, yeah, you
I
love
think
it.
we all know your answer. Yeah.
Freaking love back to
Love it.
school.
You do.
I love it. And I particularly love it because I'm in school again. So that's super amazing.
Double back to
Whoop.
school.
Right. We
Double
did,
back
we
to
did the
school.
school shopping.
Oh.
Which
We
felt
did.
good. Yeah.
You got your supplies.
I got supplies, but I didn't get new shoes, which I feel is
Oh, that's
crap
the best part. Yeah.
because
I think
that's
that
the
was,
best
like,
part.
Top of the list.
I need new shoes for school.
And you know what I didn't do that I failed at was when we went to Iowa so you can go to the campus. I was going to take a picture of you with a sign I made that said first day of 19th grade or whatever it is. I didn't do it. I feel so bad because I felt like first day of school pics.
It would be 19th grade.
Would it be 19?
I think
It'd
so.
be up there. I don't even know.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah.
how do you even count?
Grade 19.
That's fun.
I feel like next year's going to be the real, like 2 decades. 20.
Yeah,
Oh,
20,
yeah.
20 years.
As long as you get it next year,
Right.
you're golden.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we could do like it's not really, see, back to school to me goes to the place of like crunchy leaves and the smell of the bus stop where it's cold in the morning and then it's freaking a million degrees when you
Yeah.
come home
At
and you're
3
trying to
o'clock.
wear all
Yeah.
your new school clothes
Sweat.
and you're sweating
Yeah.
because
Yep.
they're
There
really
you
for
go.
like November.
1,000%.
So that's what I think of when I think of back to school. So we can't really do a back to school picture in January when we're in Iowa.
No.
So we'll have to wait.
Yeah, back to school for me, like you nailed it. When it's like cool in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and then especially through 8th grade, I would have a uniform because I went to Catholic school, and on the way home, drenched in sweat, the
Yeah.
most uncomfortable, and because it was like crazy boy energy, where recess time what we still had
Yep.
was usually just like running around in crazy circles, playing basketball or football, and destroying my uniform.
Oh, yeah.
Like they had layers of knee patches sewn in because I kept like destroying them. My mom was just like, "What are you doing? We can't keep buying you pants every month. Stop it." Yeah, so that was probably hilarious. Now, I didn't like it. I wasn't crazy about it when I was a student. Like college was different. But now when I was a teacher, I like loved it. I knew that the second I wasn't going to be excited about back to school anymore, or like the school year, that was time to quit. That was time to like
Yeah.
It's time to be
not
done teaching.
be done if I
Yeah.
wasn't, because I was always super excited about it. And it made me think of like, it's going to seem weird, like the baseball season.
Uh-huh.
Because when the baseball season starts, it's like when's opening day, and there's that energy, that excitement. Everyone is full with hope, no matter what team you're on or what team you are a fan of. Like there's always that hope. Usually it's dashed the next day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that was it. I was like, there's so hopeful. Like there's so many possibilities, like so many plans, so many exciting things you want to try and do.
Definitely.
And then the weight of the school year gently, slowly crushed your dreams. But if you can make it to Columbus/Indigenous Peoples Day, the year was basically over.
There you go.
You can make it to
It's done.
then. The year flew by after that.
When is that
Really?
again?
That's like
Oh, yeah.
2 months
It's in October.
October.
And
And
That
then
was-
the rest of the year
That was
just
the
goes.
hardest. The hardest part is that time, and the second hardest is Memorial Day to the end of the year.
Uh-huh.
In between
a
time,
teacher.
as a teacher,
As a teacher.
that in between time zips by.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, because you only have like so much time to get through all of the curriculum that you have planned.
And then by then it's almost
Right.
like
It's
almost-
6 weeks is a thing.
Yeah.
Like a 3-day weekend, a week off, or a holiday or
Mhm.
something like that.
That's
March
true.
is pretty rough.
March,
is
the
tough.
baseball season started.
Right.
I was just zeroed in on March. That
Yep.
was when tryouts and practice started. So that for me was the juice.
So you would be focused on coaching. Yeah. And any coaching I was doing was over by then. So it was just like the longest month of March.
The weather's
But-
not great either.
No.
It's
The
just
weather's-
like drear city.
Mhm.
It's like you want it to be better, but it just isn't.
Yep.
Goes
Anywhere.
quick. The nice
Yeah.
days are few and far between, for sure.
Yeah, back to school is like, kind of this weird harvest energy too. Like I wonder sometimes what it would be like if there was school all year round. Like some places tried to do that. I think about how our society even is just kind of built around these rhythms. And like, we notice as an organization just, people get back into routine. They get back into routine. So like summer is kind of a free for all. And that's great. And it's short and fleeting. So it's kind of like, let's do all the things we can do for summer. And then we land back in this fall space. And it's like, what are the metaphorical school supplies that we're going and getting? How am I reorganizing life? And I love that like rhythm that kind of comes in.
Yeah, I think I felt that rhythm too, not being a teacher. Like even ever since, well, it was a couple years I worked at a school, and then starting to work at Yoga Farm, I didn't really adhere too much to like the school year. Like there were ebbs and flows and like programs and stuff, but I still found myself, wanting the fall, wanted to be cooler, looking forward to fall type things. And then there's a certain energy, like you said, the harvest, like an energy around it as far as like, let's do some grounding, concentrated work to prepare for the winter type
Right.
energy.
Yeah.
Gather. Right?
Yeah.
Like, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that like preparatory energy, or like, getting the seeds and the nuts and saving things and just kind of like, the drawing it back in and thinking about whatever is going to get us through the dark times.
Has anyone experienced like what are the challenges of the back to school time? because I know I didn't really appreciate what could be the chaos of back to school time until like the children. And it's like, how do you rein in that summer energy into like, this is like real life now has to start again, guys.
I mean, I feel like it's so easy because they go from having non-schedule to being forced to have a schedule, and they're just tired for 3 weeks. I mean, they're grumpy. They would be grumpy. There would be more meltdowns, but like in a way, you have to be on the bus at 7:30 in the morning when like at 7:30 in the morning for the past 2 months
You've been asleep for 3 hours.
You've got like second sleep happening at this point. They're just running on empty.
Yeah.
So they were, like,
That's good.
and I think that's the other reason why like the beginnings of like freshmen in particular in high school, like people new to school,
So
they're
good.
just tired. They're
So
so
good.
tired. It's so great.
So tired. They were like on edge because they didn't really know where they kind of fit in this weird new building. It was so glorious. It was so like, you are mine right now. Again, by October, that was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, they were like using all their resources. Like they were using their resources to get up. They were using their
Yep.
resources to navigate the social, the like
Yeah.
spatial.
The whole new thing that they
Yeah.
were embarking upon. Yeah. But it was, it had this energy too of like, hurry up and prepare for things at the end of August so that school could start and happen,
Smoothly.
and wanting it to not be more so a shock to my system because I also had to go back to school.
Yeah.
I also was working full time and needed to think about things like, what are we eating? Because that, is going to shift and change. But those days are gone.
They are
Except for
all
Josh.
gone.
I was
Oh,
thinking
I was
Josh
gonna
is
say,
the one that's
I am
still
Josh
definitely.
is-
I've never been happier for school to start
Uh-huh.
in my life. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I was so excited to have a routine, just like because like you said, it's not me forcing the schedule.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you got to go to
Right.
school. Bro.
You gotta go to
Like
school.
I can't.
It's not my fault.
There's nothing I can tell you. Yeah, it's so.
It's like not your fight to fight. You
Oh,
can, like,
exactly.
take
Yeah.
yourself out of the
just like,
ring.
listen,
You can
give
even
you
be
a
like,
lunch. I can
guys,
give you
listen,
some
it
clothes,
stinks.
but you got to go.
It stinks. I'm really
Right.
sorry. I
Yeah.
hate. You know what?
hate it.
I hate
Yeah.
it. They have to
I
leave
miss
all this
you.
day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I definitely do, but also it's like, oh my god, just like the organization in our house is so much better.
What grades are they in now?
5th and 3rd.
Okay.
So last year of elementary school where they'll
Okay.
be together,
Oh,
and
okay.
then it won't happen again until 8th and 6th, and then it won't happen again until junior and freshman.
Wow.
So it's like
Nice.
very cool. It's like their last year. They're both so comfortable at school and ready. They were so excited to go back, and
Nice.
it wasn't like a
nice.
fight really, other than in the morning. Obviously, in the mornings it's like, oh yeah, remember? And they're like, I usually sleep for like literally 3 more hours.
3 more hours.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's a crazy like,
Yeah.
and not being hungry that early and like
Right,
kind of like
yeah.
readjusting their bodies to that kind of stuff and earlier bedtimes and that kind of stuff.
As a
which
teacher, it
is-
was all the same, like earlier bedtime.
Yep.
Yep.
and
How
the-
did you guys do it? How did you do it, Jeannie, when you were going to school teaching and your kids were in school?
Yeah. I mean, we did not go to the same school
Right.
either. So I
Yeah,
taught at
that's-
a different school than where the kids were. It was a well-oiled machine. So, for the most part, the high school, when they were in middle school and high school, they started school around the same time that I
Okay.
did. So it was just a matter of getting them
There early.
to the bus stop or
Oh,
getting
okay.
them there early.
Got it.
Eden was young still, and she went to school later than when I had to like be out the door.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
So thankfully, we had her best friend lived like 2 doors down from
Okay.
us.
Love that.
So
Key.
she would walk over there,
Yes.
and they would feed her breakfast, and they would play, and then they would get on the bus together. And it was like, oh my God, this is such a godsend, because otherwise there was just no way.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, the 2 older ones and I would tend to leave the house at the same time, and Eden would walk over to the neighbor's house until she needed to get on the bus. And then at one point, like when I was in college still, I had a friend that lived down the road because 3 days a week I needed to be at work at 3:30 in the morning. So
That's
that
what
I
was thinking.
could.
I was like, don't teachers have to be at school? Don't you
Well,
have to be
no,
at
that was
school?
not a teaching
That was in
job.
college.
No,
Yeah.
because I was in college. My teaching job, wasn't paid. It was my practicum year,
Yeah. it's
Oh
like-
yeah.
so I still
the
had to make
bakery?
money.
right.
What's the
So,
name for the bakery?
I was at the bakery at
Yeah.
3:30 in the morning to get everything done for
Prepped.
like the breakfast prep of the bakery. And then I would leave the bakery at 7:30 in the morning with lots of treats and bring them to my high school students where I would teach all day long and then leave school and be able to scoop up Eden. And the older two tended to have like sports. So the busing would kind of take them, or they would stay on the campus on school grounds and do their after school activities right there, thankfully, because if they didn't have after school activities, they would have been out way before me. And we all know what happens when teenagers have free range of the house.
Right, exactly.
And their mom is in another state.
Nothing good.
There'll be some friends over when you come home.
I mean, Abby would have been fine.
The house? What about the neighborhood?
Yeah,
Right.
the whole
the whole
neighborhood.
town.
Yeah. I'm
The
like,
whole neighborhood. But yeah, it was wild. And you know, there are some times where I'm like, and then I would pick them up, come home,
What do you eat?
homework, dinner, all of those
Jesus.
things. They would go to bed, and I had to do not just homework for school because I was a student. Also, I had to grade papers. So it was like, I'm like, I think I was sleeping like maybe 4.5
I was gonna
hours
say,
at
there's not
that
enough time.
point in my life, which I was much younger. So what
Holy
you can
cow.
do when you're
I
in your
can't
20s.
Remember,
That's
I
true.
guess, yeah.
I mean,
oh
but
my God.
think about your 20s though, because there were times where you
Yeah,
would
that's
stay
true.
up
Yep.
and go to a concert until like 3 o'clock in the morning, come home, sleep for 4 hours, and go teach in the
And
morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, there was one time. I wasn't teaching, but I did see Pearl Jam 2 nights in a row in Madison Square Garden.
Oh, my
So I was
God.
still living in
my
New
God.
Jersey.
That sounds
and it was just a
amazing.
train ride into Manhattan.
Yeah.
So I went to work at Trenton, and there was a train right there. Went to New York City, saw the concert, took the train home, went home, got home at like 2 a.m., went to work the next morning by 8:30, worked all day, night number 2, and then I got home at 4 in the morning.
Oh my God.
Went to bed and was at work at 8:30 the next morning.
Oh my God.
Now, the one time when I was actually teaching,
You smelled bad that day. I
Oh,
bet.
I bet you did.
I probably had beer sweating out of every pore. It's
Just
like,
other people's funk too
Yeah,
that you've like
that
absorbed.
just
from
bathed-
them.
But you're around teenagers, so nobody can
Nobody
tell who
cares.
it is.
Well, that was-
no one knows who it is.
There was one time when I was teaching where we were teaching in Bennington, Vermont, and I saw Megadeth in New York City. Like, I drove to Poughkeepsie, which was 2
Oh
hours
yeah,
away.
for the train.
A train to Poughkeepsie to the city, saw the show.
How long was the train?
From Poughkeepsie, hour 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah,
it was
50 minutes maybe.
It wasn't that bad.
Just
Yeah.
just
But then it was
quick
a-
4-hour trip.
Then it was a
Uh-huh.
2-hour
One
drive
way.
home. Well, that time I was probably 27,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, what I did is I went to school in the morning and took a half day, and then left early.
Nice.
Oh,
Went
yeah.
home and crashed. I'm like,
Oh,
I don't
my
want to go
God.
in late because screw that. I'll sleep for 3 hours, teach half a day, go home and crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was still in my 20s when I was like, oh, this is hard. I need
Yeah.
more sleep than this. So I don't know how you did that at that level.
Yeah.
Concerts are one thing, 1 or 2
Because
nights.
they're one-offs, right?
Right.
This is like
This
day
is
and
This
Every
was
night.
the
day.
routine.
Yeah.
I mean, I got really good at things like everything was cooked in the crock pot. You know, like
Such planning.
there was just
Mental space.
there was just no other option.
Miracle.
Like Sundays were youth sports predominantly, and then come home and put everything that you need for the next like 4 nights in big, huge gallon plastic bags so that you could wake up in the morning, dump them into the crock pot, turn the crock pot on, and then do the same thing with another thing from a different bag the next day.
Yeah.
And then like Fridays were pizza night. You know, like it was just like everything was like a machine to keep it going. And I mean, there were people, you know, like I had coached in the community. I was pretty active in the elementary school. And so I knew so many families and kids. And I had also like driven people's children all over the place and fed them and taken care of them. So like when I needed support, people were generally willing to be like, oh yeah, you know, like they can get off the bus at my house because I would have like a presentation that I'd have to do some night or something. So it's,
I mean, even in my experience, I remember the Platinskys, a family that we were close to. I can't even count how many times either got off at their house on the
Yeah.
bus stop or they came over our house because stuff's going on. And it's just one of those things where
it's
like,
reciprocal though. I
the-
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
like
Oh,
that
yeah.
was the other part of it was I was like, okay, you're
Yeah,
going to
then
take
their
my
kids got to
kids.
come over. Yeah.
And then I'm going to have 8 kids in the house on Friday night because they want to go out on a date.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and that kind of stayed that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to the point where like you came over to the house even, and my house at that point was just like where everyone's children were all weekend long.
Yeah.
So Matt came over.
This is dating phase.
Barely
This is
dating
early
phase.
on, yeah.
Early. And there were so many kids in my house. I was like, this man is either going to turn around and never come
Run
back.
away.
Or he's gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm not even gonna try to pretend that it's any different than what it is. I think 4 girls came like storming down the stairs because you came in. There were 4 children in the living room. Eden and her best friend were playing in her room. There were easily 10 children in the house under the age of 14.
My Lord.
Yeah, it was wild.
Amazing.
It was
The
a wild.
kids like to think they were telling this story years later. Like, Matt was so freaked out. You should have saw his face. I'm like, I guarantee I was just like, okay, this is the way it is in this house.
I
And
mean,
like,
what happened was he took a puff out of his inhaler.
Oh yeah.
And so Madeline interpreted that to mean like he was having like
Short of
some
breath.
kind of
Yeah.
panic
Short of
attack
breath, yeah.
from like the movies. He's like, oh, I'm having an asthma attack at the sight of 10 children.
He's like,
well,
no.
it's also like my job
children
is
are
to
just
be
dusty.
around. Right. It's like my job is to be around freshmen, a group of them as large as 25, and then sometimes I coach and do it for free, or I get barely paid to do it. This is like
This is just another
it's
classroom.
just another it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
another venue. It's no different.
Right.
Same crazy kind of energy, but
Yeah.
Well, at least here you're not actually really trying to get them to focus in on the subject matter,
Right.
or like they're entertaining themselves.
Yeah.
They're
That's
just
weird.
around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Make sure
They're
nobody
around.
You may have to
dies.
like throw some popcorn on for them. But
They're around. Yeah. But generally like back to school feels like potential.
yeah.
Hope.
You know?
Hope.
Yeah. And like you kind of can suck in the energy of student excitement too. Like, I mean, I even think about when we were at the massage school and like those first day, like
fun.
literal first day of massage
So
school.
fun.
You talk about it. 'Cause it was probably one of my, and we had multiple cohorts that would start throughout the year. So it wasn't like first day of school only happened
Only
in September.
once. Yeah, right.
No. We had to do it,
So
like,
like
4
we
times
get
a
like
year.
4 times a year we had to have first day of school.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really fun.
I don't know. I
sweet.
just remember like would we like kind of like line up we would line up in the hallway 'cause, like, and the students would like walk in through the like group of teachers, like everybody
we'd
would
be
be
all
kinda,
like,
all hands on deck.
That's
Yeah,
cute.
and we'd like
I like that kind of stuff.
I know that's like the in person, the beauty of in person.
Yeah.
Is like
Yep.
yeah. So they got to like walk through 'em. And there was a while when we would make these like first day of school signs and like take pictures of them, and
Post them on
Instagram.
Instagram.
And,
You know.
yeah.
Do people massage the first day?
No.
You don't get a massage or anything?
No, but within the first
I thought
week,
that's what you're gonna say. So we
within
all
the
gave
first-
everybody massages.
I mean,
Like,
that'd be
it's the best
awesome.
thing ever. Yeah.
it's quick. It was quick. It
Oh,
was
okay,
within the
gotcha.
first like couple days. Like
Gotcha.
you were doing hands-on stuff.
Okay,
but,
cool.
Yeah.
Not the first day.
But
No,
not
not
the
the
first
first day.
day.
First day's just
Can you
fun.
imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's probably not
Get
safe.
on that table.
Get on there.
Strip down.
Let me
on the
show you
Figure
what
it out.
this is.
Figure it out.
Welcome to college.
Intuit it. Intuit it. Yeah.
Well, you know what I like what you said about it's like potential, especially if you're beginning a program or a class or a school year. It's sometimes you hear the phrase where you could reinvent yourself any day you decide to, and just decide I'm going to do this from now on. I mean, but there's also like that fresh start where like you're starting at zero. Like it is a fresh slate. Like depending on how you look at it, you either start with a 0 or you have the A that we talked about.
Have
It's
the
like
A.
everyone starts.
Just
Sometimes
keep it.
teachers like you start with an A. Your job is to keep it. And
I mean, that was my philosophy.
that was good. Yeah, but I mean, it's like actually true because it's like you're all starting in the same
Mm-hmm.
place at the same time. It's this wonderful kind of like little. You could actually be completely different than you were yesterday or the year before.
Right. It's like a market. It's like there's a marketness to it. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
I was telling the kids I was trying to hype them up, because they weren't like so excited to go back. They like know they
Yeah.
know all the stuff they got to do, but I was like trying to say like I couldn't wait to go back to see who changed. Like
Yeah.
to see like how people changed, or if
Who
they went on
grew 2
vacation,
inches,
or
like,
like
yeah,
they
okay,
got
good.
haircuts, or like whatever. And it's just so cute because it's like, and also dealing with what teacher you have. like talking
Yeah.
about like, oh, all my friends are in another class. And it was funny because for me, my mom, I never in any of my friends' classes because I talked like literally nonstop in class. I was just, in kindergarten, my mom got called in and they said that I was running the class and like the kids wouldn't listen to the teacher. It was her first year and it was, and I was 4. My mom was like, you're an adult. You know, like,
This sounds like a you problem.
I know, right?
It's fun.
But that was every year, so I was like, my mom always was so happy I wasn't in class with my friend. She's like, that's because you got talkative every quarter last year, you know, like, and we were talking because my daughter she's not in class with any of her friends, and so it's like it's tough for her. She was like very sad, like very very sad about it because it's her last year at Fall Creek, and so. But it was funny because I was just like, what if you make a new friend? I'm like, what if there's somebody like that has changed or that you haven't met before or whatever? And she's like, I don't know. You know, but it's going, but she likes her teacher and like she's figuring it out. But it's definitely, there's that like, I now remember that uneasiness thinking like, am I going to be able to win over this teacher or are we going to be enemies? You know, like, am I going to go to the principal's office every week or like, what's the deal? And so it definitely,
It's
that's
funny.
a part of it.
I just reflect on the students you get in that first day. And I never really thought about what must it be like for them to come in and be like, so who are you two? Or like, who is this? How is this going to work? I never actually really thought of it. I mean, because it's really hard to, because you're just so wrapped up in like, what's the first day plan? Do I have all the copies? I got all this. I got my roster, all of these things. And so rarely, until you get into the groove and you're like, oh, maybe I can understand or think about someone else, like the student's point of view and what they're going through. But that first few days was like all hype and great, but also like you got to be ready. It's like not quite survival mode, but like,
Well,
I mean, first year, second year, third year, there is that like ducks in a row, man.
As a teacher.
So as a teacher,
Let's get this going.
it's like survival mode. Then it's like
Trial by fire.
seriously, because sometimes it will take someone to say, you teacher at the front of the room, you're the adult. It's okay.
Yep.
Like you are in charge and you have to believe that.
Yeah, right.
well, and there's 27 of them and one of you too,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like all the focus is on you.
Yes.
They can smell the fear.
Yeah, right.
Experience.
They can see the youth.
smell it. Yeah.
Well, and it's just been so interesting too because like, you know, I always when teaching thought about the like internal condition of the students like right out of the gate because educational trauma is so profound and you know I think like a lot of spiritual healing and spaces are doing a lot of fantastic work around healing childhood trauma, right? Like prior to the age of 6 trauma, like that those foundational years that, you know, we decide who we are and what the world is about in this subconscious level. And then we don't often address how impactful the trauma that happens in a school setting can be for the rest of our lives. And,
I haven't thought of that before.
you know, I mean, like
That's so
we spend 8 hours, students spend 8 hours a day in school.
For years.
For years. And so if they're doing after school or if they're doing sports or they're doing other activities, right? Like they're really in their homes after the age of 5. They're in their homes like 2 hours awake every night, maybe 3 max. And then they have the weekends. So when we look at childhood trauma that goes on of the huge spectrum of what that trauma can look like, I just think that we don't do a really great job expressing and moving and processing through the trauma that comes up around education and how it prohibits people from learning new things. It limits their abilities to say yes to being in programs. All the stories of like, well, I don't know enough to be here. I didn't study enough to be here. I'm not going to fit in. I don't know what everyone's wearing. I don't like, these are visceral experiences in our bodies. And if we're not aware of them, they can make the choice for us to be like, oh, I thought I was going to do this program and now I'm not. You know, like I signed up for the thing and now I'm not. Or they show up for 2 classes and they're like, this is too much. I can't. Right? Because all that educational trauma comes up because we spent most of our formative years figuring out who we are in these environments. And then we talk about childhood trauma, but leave out the element of educational trauma that is just prolific.
Oh, that's so. Like I'm thinking, like also you're subjected to so many teachers.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
So
You
many.
are subjected to so many people have an influence
Yeah.
on that. Like you think, like childhood trauma is mostly your parents and your caretakers.
Yeah.
Spiritual trauma, it's
Yeah.
mostly whoever your pastor was. Maybe switch church, but like this, like it.
Okay.
I have like
Yes.
chills almost.
And
Like
Me too.
Yes.
I
It
just-
is
me too. I was just
so many
thinking about it,
people
like, oh my
that-
Oh, yeah.
God.
And like, we're not even talking about what I would say big T for educational trauma and that, where like your teacher screamed at you every day or berated
Right.
you or came out and
Told you to be
actually
quiet
was
every
like
time.
very
Right.
mean to you. Not that.
Yeah.
But my experience with educational trauma is, an example would be, I mean, it stems from a teacher trying to establish themselves and be taken seriously and eventually be taking themselves way too seriously.
Their own unhealed stuff.
And
Their own
then like an
insecurities and-
effort to
yeah.
crowd control. I think that's
Right.
where that's the seed where emotional or educational trauma kind of blossoms, right? Like it's in those areas where like the teachers are trying to do something. But for example, if in I guess any class where a teacher says, we're going to read this out loud, this paper that's got paragraphs, and students are going to read, we're going to start with the kid in the front, one paragraph, and then pass to the person behind you. If I'm 5 seats back in the back of the room, I am not listening to a single thing
Nope.
anyone's reading. I'm counting the paragraphs,
Yep.
saying this is mine, reading it to
Practicing
myself
it, yeah.
to make sure, see
Practicing,
if there's
yeah.
any words
Any funny
that
words?
I don't know, I don't want to screw up. And okay, it's my turn, and then I'm going to read it, and I have no idea what this is because it's the 5th paragraph in a piece of writing that I wasn't paying attention to. And it's just like those things. And when we talk about like the difference between like introverts, extroverts, like and another part of the trauma, and this was seeing this in staff development days where formative assessments.
Ooh.
Ugh, my butt clenches when I hear this, even as a teacher, because one thing it would do would be like, okay, here's how you make sure kids are engaged all the time. You got to keep them on their toes. You get 30 popsicle sticks, write every kid's name on one, and just pull one out for something. You know what? When you're shaking that popsicle stick can, they're just thinking, please don't pick me. Please
Well,
don't pick me.
you've just
They're
lost 50% of your students
Yeah.
because
Oh.
if they are made anxious by that, they're unable to learn anything you're about to teach them because they've
Right.
gone into sympathetic nervous
probably for the
system.
next 2 hours.
Yeah.
You fucked the next class too.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
You would not believe how many times, like towards the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
a student would come in fuming or embarrassed about something that happened in the class before,
Yep.
either with a teacher or a student or
Yep.
lunch or something. And then now it's my job to de-escalate so I can focus on what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Or there's sometimes you're like, is this going to be such a thing where like I audible and be like, okay, today's about something else now. And I have to
Right.
pull that out of nowhere, which
Right.
which has happened before.
Oh, so many times.
So like it's the compassion on that end for the teachers, and also like you are the controlling element. So like they
Yeah.
are going to pick up on the vibes, the setting, like the
right. Because the
tensions you
developed
have.
nervous system in the room,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully an
Hopefully,
adult in
yeah.
charge,
Fingers crossed.
is going to set the tone for the underdeveloped nervous systems in the room. And then on top of that, like, I mean, we hammer hard on parents and all the things that we do wrong and right as we raise children in regards to trauma, and also teachers because they are the adult in the room. But in school settings is where so much hurt and pain happens in community. It is your first experience typically of embarrassment. It is your first experience typically of being left out. It is your first experience typically of not knowing enough, not knowing what you were supposed to do, or not bringing the right book, or forgetting your pencil, or anything like that, where sure, the teacher's response counts, but the other thing that comes into play is the reactions of your peers.
Yeah.
And, so, we talk in our curriculum often about like, are you like, what is your core concern, worry? Are you going to be left out? Are you worried about that being separate, abandoned, alone? Are you worried about not being good enough? Are you worried about not doing enough? Often those things solidify within the evidence that we collect in our school environments as children from the ages of typically 7 to 14 is where we're collecting this like spy dossier of evidence of like, see, I'm not good enough. Oh, here's another example of I'm not good enough. I didn't get a sticker. I'm not good enough. I didn't get to sit with the people I wanted to sit with at lunch. I'm not good enough. And so then this educational trauma plays out in the other spaces that we are in our adult lives, and we don't think about it as educational trauma. We're able to be in that unconscious awareness of like, oh yeah, well I have this wound or this thing, but we fail to understand that it gets targeted and triggered and brought up when we are in environments and community where we perceive we don't know as much as somebody else.
Yeah.
And so we're in total reactivity.
It's like community trauma, but because it was like established in the educational setting, then especially I'm sure
It's official.
yeah.
comes up in anything that resembles that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why, like, you know, we spend the first 2 to 3 classes in every single program grounding everyone, reminding everyone, like, you are meant to be here. You're here. That's the only evidence I need.
Right.
That's
exactly.
it. There are millions of
now.
people who are not here today. You know, like the universe and an energy and your longing brought you here. There's no other prerequisite. There's no other prerequisite besides that. And yet, if we are unconscious about these wounds, then, you know, we decide like, oh, I couldn't find the Zoom link. See, I'm not meant to be here.
I'm not meant to be here.
I'm not meant to be here, right? I didn't know that I was supposed to be in this class at this time live. You know, like all of those things come up. Or I went into a breakout room and I was by myself because the other people who were supposed to be in your breakout room
Dipped out.
exited that meeting, right? Has nothing to do with you. They ran
like,
away,
Breakout rooms, bye.
You were afraid, yeah.
right? But then like there's another, I see I'm alone in my breakout room. And what meaning do I make around that? And I just feel like it's one of, I wasn't going to bring this up on the podcast today because I'm like, oh God. But I didn't watch the debate.
Oh,
I did not.
I didn't either.
I
It was one of the most enjoyable experiences I've ever had.
oh my God.
Swear to God, it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I can't listen to his voice. And I knew that she was going to mop the floor with him. You
But
know,
it was better than
Right.
I could have imagined.
she's a
Right.
prosecutor. He's a
The
criminal.
eating
like,
the
Oh,
animals in
it
Ohio.
it was masterful.
oh my
Yeah.
God.
It, truthfully, I would recommend it to anybody. It was like, I heard on a podcast today that it was like, we've all been waiting 9 years for this. Like
Right.
he started off angry and he ended up sad.
Yeah.
He was like
Oh,
so
nice.
aware of like how bad it was going.
Because
and,
it's,
like,
I mean, for me, it's just like, I thought of this almost immediately in 2016. I'm like, is someone going to just like, who is going to be the one that holds this person accountable for the crap they're saying? And I can't believe it's taken this long.
Well, the moderators did too. They did a good
Right.
job.
They did a great
Yes.
job.
I think they did a
Yes.
really
Wait,
good
continue
job.
your story.
Sorry.
What-
yeah, sorry.
You weren't.
Keep going.
You
Yeah.
didn't watch the debate.
I
Yes.
didn't. But I've watched some sound bites, you know, like can't even go on social
Seen the
media
good
today
parts.
without
No, you
seeing
cannot.
it. Thank God for Jon Stewart in every way.
Oh, he's
Oh, I have to check his out.
Oh
it
my
was so
God.
good. So good. I was cracking up.
But this race is close.
Well,
So when I sit with the awareness that this is a close contest,
Right.
I am immediately brought to the space of how many things we all as human beings don't know. And how many things, like, you know, we're not responsible for not knowing because we don't even know that we don't know them. They're so far outside of our day-to-day experience. And then there's the part of like just willful ignorance of like learning new things, being outside my comfort zone, being tasked with doing something that I don't love or I'm not in my comfort zone when I'm doing it, are things that we avoid. And we avoid the challenge. We avoid the stress. We avoid change at a very fundamental level in our nervous system and our physiology. And I think that is even more true when there is unhealed educational trauma that people have, because the idea of like, well, I don't know anything about the United States government and how it works. Like saying that statement, I think a lot of people could say that, right? The idea of doing something about that is so overwhelming because it means being potentially the person in a room, in a conversation, in a space that knows less. And we don't want to be the person that knows less.
Yeah.
Well, and people often don't make you feel safe for knowing less, you know,
Right.
especially in situations or on topics that people have big opinions on.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Or like
It's
there's
so
big
judgy.
consequences in the beliefs,
Yeah,
right? It's
right.
like, oh, you're gonna vote for that person without knowing? Oh my God. Like it's like there's a lot of shame in voting, in who you support. And
Right.
And
Yeah.
I was saying Francine last night was like, oh well, she's gonna win for sure. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's tied. Like
Yes.
right now.
It's tight,
And this
yeah.
will help. This will help for sure for undecided. Every single thing she talked about was like directed at the undecided voters who don't like when he gets angry, who don't like when he makes racist comments, who don't like the unhinged weakness that comes with being approached with honesty. And like that alone is like she demonstrated it so well last night that
I mean,
she has the gall
and
she
also,
has
like,
the strength, you know, like, and that was
She
awesome.
also has been watching this unfold since
Yes,
2016.
of
and
course.
right.
If like in a closed room, what is the stuff she would be saying at the TV, screaming at it? This, you know what I mean? It's like, and you know what? You have the stage, you have the platform, and like you know, you may want to be like you. Like she even said something.
She was so close.
She said,
Yeah, it
and
was awesome.
this former president. I can't see a TikTok clip of that without someone inserting what we think she's actually
Oh, it's
saying.
the
There are
But
so
then-
many faces that she made that are just like still shots now where I'm like, I know I make that face.
But then, I mean, like that's the test. You got to handle that with grace and poise,
Yeah.
and yeah, I thought she did that as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's
Yeah, it's tricky because, you know, like I know that it's so uncomfortable for people to admit the things that they are not aware of. And then on top of it, we have this general lack of trust in being in that space of vulnerability of not knowing, right? So it's like, what does this mean about me that I don't know this? A friend of ours said recently that their mother was like, well, I don't even think that women should have the right to vote.
What?
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
And
I know.
and they were like,
What?
and they were like, what? Mom, like, what did you just say?
Was this a male or a female friend?
A male friend.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Would she say that to her daughter?
and I'm like,
Probably. But
what I hear in that statement is, I don't believe that I
Yeah.
am smart enough to make this decision. And figuring out how to be smart enough is too overwhelming and brings up all of those stories of I am not good enough. I am not doing enough. I have not done enough. And I'm going to somehow make someone upset and be separate, abandoned, alone in this situation.
Yeah.
It's like cheat codes, though. There's literally websites where you can go on and just answer a
questions.
questionnaire.
It's true.
Answer
Cheat code.
questions.
I'm trying to lean into that feeling. It's unrelated from what we were just talking about in the political spectrum. I've been trying to lean into that because in the past year, I've become a homeowner. So it's like, oh, here's the thing. How we fix it? It's like, oh, for my entire life, there's been a landlord. And I'm like, this thing's broken. Fix it. And now I'm like, oh, it's me. And I noticed myself when in that realm thinking like, I don't know how to do this. Do you know someone, or how about you? I know people that might know it, and I don't care at all to be like, I don't know. Please tell me.
Yeah.
That is, I am 45, and it's taken till then, but I don't care anymore. That's kind of where I'm at with a lot of things. I don't care.
know. Please tell
And
me.
you know what? At the
Someone
end of this,
who knows.
At the end of this 5-minute conversation, I will have learned, and now I will be where you are. Like you weren't born knowing this answer,
Yeah.
so I'm fine with that.
Yep.
But
Well, and I think that it's tricky because and in spiritual communities, we do this too. So I think about our organization, yoga communities, being kind of this like Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass version of the outer world and realities that are going on, right? So there's some mirroring of behaviors. And in spiritual communities, we want a guru.
Right.
Right. We were messaging about this the other day
Yeah.
in Slack, right?
Right.
Like we love a guru. People love gurus. Tell me what to think, what to do, how to be, so that I don't have to think critically.
Yep.
So that I don't have to be responsible then for my own decisions because I was just following what I was told to do, right? And we've been conditioned by public school to operate in this way. Talk about another level of educational trauma. Like, God forbid you think for yourself and the repercussions of that. In the outer world, we apply this same guru mindset mentality to politicians and celebrities, right? We're just like, well, what does, I'm going to use an old celebrity's name so that I don't bring up a whole other can of worms. What does Christy Brinkley think about
I thought you were going to
wellness?
say, you know
wait to
what
hear.
name popped into my head?
What?
Desi Arnaz.
Oh my God.
Wow, that was way back.
Whoa.
Lucia
Okay.
Ball.
No,
What would Desi Arnaz do?
Do.
Right? And it's like all of these
That's funny.
false prophet type of people that we've just decided, well, you're a person I like.
Well, they're successful, right? In the in the realm
In
of
the
the
realm
world.
of the world of
Yep.
what success
What
tends to
success
mean.
tends to look like. Yep.
I'm
Yep.
torn between that. On one hand, they're a celebrity. Who cares what they think? It's like, on the other hand, they are a citizen. They have a right to an opinion.
yeah.
With
You know
a
what I mean?
platform,
With a platform.
100%.
So
like George Clooney.
You're allowed to have, I'm not saying celebrities and politicians can't have opinions and sometimes be right in those opinions. I'm saying that pouring our, abdicating is really
Right.
what it is.
That is
Abdicating our empowered choice to someone else because we've decided that they know a thing or two. What the check boxes for that are, I don't know, is tricky, and it doesn't work because they're human and they're fallible. And when we apply this to politics, we are looking for this golden person, right? This golden child of righteousness that's going to step into a role. You are not marrying this person that you're voting for in November. You are not deciding that for the rest of your life, you have a solemn vow to grow with them, connect with them, compromise with them. You're voting for someone to represent your opinion for a period of time. And you have a choice between certain candidates, if I had a magic wand, would I be voting for anybody on the ballot? No.
Yep.
Nope.
Me too.
The person I want to vote for is not on the ballot. And I've wanted to vote for him for years, and he continues to not be on the ballot.
Me too.
Yeah. And eventually he's not going to be around to be on the ballot either. And I had to come to that space. I actually had to come to that space in 2016 that I am not voting for forever. I'm voting for, of these two options, right?
Yeah.
Who best represents what I find valuable in this world. And to me, it feels a little bit sometimes talking to people about this, like I'm talking to my 7-year-old that I'm like, do you want chicken for dinner or pasta? And they're like, I want to go to McDonald's. And I'm like, that is not a choice.
Right.
That isn't a choice right now.
Sorry.
And maybe McDonald's will be a choice for you in 4 years. But right now, the choices are, do you want chicken? Do you want pasta?
It's like, well, here's what dinner is. It's chicken with vegetables and rice. Well, I'm not super excited about the rice. But I like the other two things. So I'm going to not choose that whole option. Like,
Right.
you don't have to
Right.
love every single
Every
thing.
single part.
And it'd be really rare if you did.
And then
Especially if there's only two
Two
choices.
choices. Yeah.
on
makes it
top
tough.
of that, if you don't like the choice, maybe you participate in making the weekly menu.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Is this
Like-
a writing in metaphor?
I
Look at
mean,
us. That's good.
or just what are we doing? What are we here to do
Right.
when
Right.
it's not a major election? How vocal? It cracks me up sometimes looking on Facebook because I'm like, this person has posted about politics 17 times in the past 2 days. I haven't seen them post about politics in 8 years
Right.
on their Facebook page.
Mhm.
So it's
Or
like,
like local elections.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
state, something more local than a federal national
Well, that have
election.
a bigger effect on your day-to-day lives.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I think this is the thing that gets scary for people.
Yeah.
Is because certain folks on certain ballots do feel like they're coming into office would affect our day-to-day lives, right? So there is that, like, maybe even in some ways not greater than, but like equal to our married partner, like if they're really taking away our rights. And so like there is a reason it feels so intense, and it is like chicken or pasta.
Yeah.
What are you gonna eat? You gotta eat something.
What is the choice today?
Yep.
And if you really hated that, then what's the plan, moving forward? And and I think, again, I like just coming back to like, it's back to school.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, today's topic was back to school.
It was back to school.
It's back to school.
It's woven.
It's educational trauma, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's just another symptom of the freeze response that can happen, the sympathetic nervous system response that will happen when we have this story that we don't know enough, and that means something about our character. And so we go to shame or pushing the responsibility onto somebody else,
Inaction.
in as opposed to stepping into learning.
Not to sound like an old person, but the internet is a thing. I mean, just like how it both is like somehow enabled people knowing less, but also like, I won't say the destruction, but the diminishing of the power of the local community, right? Like internet wasn't around 30 years ago, right? What were local communities like, and how hard was it to get information about a candidate or about anything, right? I feel like it's so much easier. Like there's no reason to not know or not find out, So like, yeah, you can have information. Like, how are you so in the dark? It's not that hard, but like the internet being what it is like isolating, and that lack of community can feed into like the shame of not knowing, or like, where do I get my information? Like who, what, you know what I mean? Like,
it's true. I mean, there's so much information out there now about people running for office that we just didn't have access to. I mean, sometimes it's like when people are frustrated with what politicians are doing, I'm like, do you want to look up the Bush family?
Oh my God! Look up anyone.
Look
up anyone.
Oh.
Yeah.
See,
Welcome to the party, pal.
I go I go to Nixon. I go right to
I mean,
Watergate.
show me a politician with completely clean hands. And, I want to say Jimmy Carter, and even Jimmy Carter, like, who was a peanut farmer from Georgia. I just watched a documentary about Jimmy Carter. So, he was talking out of both sides of his mouth to get elected. And the difference is that the news cycle didn't move as fast then. So he could have meetings with Republicans and be like,
yeah, this is cool.
These are all the things I'm going to do for you, baby. Right? And then he could go have meetings with Democrats or other lobbyists and be like, oh, you know how I'm going to take care of you. And nobody knew.
Right.
Like, it's not that the shadiness wasn't there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the presence of the internet and the swiftness of the news cycle, it doesn't mean that these are new things happening. It just means like we were unaware of them.
Oh yeah.
And we were making choices. We were voting people into office. We were.
Yeah. Well, and also like my parents, they look at the internet and they don't know what's true and what's not.
Oh, of course.
So
Well,
it's
I mean,
like
anybody
that
though too. Like,
well,
I don't know.
Me
I
too.
feel like,
well, it's like the way that AI works now, the way you can make videos. It's like I think it's also with all the information we have. It's like when I think about it being 50-50, I think 30 years ago it wouldn't have been. Because people know who Donald Trump is. They have him in the newspaper. They have all the racist stuff he's done. They don't have the propaganda machine to reframe him into this like powerful, like brilliant. No, he's never been that, and it's very clear.
Right.
But it's like because you have all these sleuths on the internet who are like basically trying to mislead for whatever their purposes are, whether it's racism, whether it's power, whether it's entertainment. Like it's like that's the
they can.
because they could like cause just it's
Humans
fun.
be humaning.
It's just fun. Like I'm just gonna mess with some people and throw out this crazy conspiracy and then
Watch it ride.
look at the former president say it all on national television last night, it was a 4chan post. Like it was all fake. And it's like if it rises to the very top, it's like how are the people who are following him not supposed to be like, see, he said it, he finally said it on TV, he said it, and it's like that's my guy. It's like, all right, because that makes it tough because
Yeah.
it's like if you're getting emails from people you respect who
Yeah.
are like, I mean, for my parents, we've gone through such a progression with this Donald Trump thing where it's like from the beginning to the end, it's like now they see it more clearly. But it took a long time for me to be like, oh, wait, hold up. Like, let's be clear about this. You know, like this person is not going to do what you
And
think.
how many people are actually saying that to their parents?
Right. Well,
Right.
who wants to
Well,
get
actually,
into it?
like,
You know, like
yeah.
it's like there was,
Yeah.
and luckily my parents are receptive, you know, like to that kind of
Right.
conversation and respect me enough to listen, you know, like because if they got all their information, if they were in an echo chamber, like they very well could be in their
Right.
social circles.
Yeah.
It's like they would be just following the current, you know, like who are we to blame them?
Right.
It's like that's your community and they're telling you this is all true and this is the right thing.
Yep.
Well, and that's what
tough.
we've been conditioned to do
Yeah.
through our
Through school.
experience of being in
Of
school,
the school.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and how pure
And I never thought of it like that.
pure
before. That's so
feedback
true.
is so powerful.
It
Yep.
is.
So
motivating.
You know, if you've known people for your entire life and they're posting about how they trust this human, I mean, half of our students that are here at Yoga Farm are here because someone they have known said,
Yeah.
you love Yoga Farm. I
Right.
love Yoga Farm. You will love Yoga Farm, right? Like we trust the people that we have relationships with and we trust their opinion, and it does take some of the pressure away. And
Yeah.
there is a little bit of that, like, if I disagree with you, is our friendship over?
Right.
You know, I mean, this is a whole movement of people putting sticky notes in bathrooms
Wait, what?
Oh my god.
of, oh yeah,
yeah.
this is a thing where women are putting sticky notes in the bathroom stalls that say your vote is anonymous. Your husband, your father, your uncle, your brother do not need to know who you're voting for. Right? Like that is a direct result of unhealed educational / peer trauma that happened in our early years of life, because doing something different, having a different opinion, thinking critically about something puts you at risk for being ousted out of the community. And that activates a very, very primal fight or flight, because human beings cannot exist without one another.
Yep.
Wow. Way to bring it
So-
home, honey.
This is where we are.
Back to school.
Oh, who's joining us?
Educational trauma.
Well, you know what? I didn't think of that topic before this, and now that when you brought it up, I'm like, oh yeah, duh. How do we not immediately go to addressing
educational trauma.
in a back to school?
Yeah.
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 Well, a new mantra is WWDD, which is
Wow.
what would Desi do?
What would that
Desi Arnaz.
Desi Arnaz. Couldn't tell you in a million years where
Did
that
have
name
no
popped up.
idea.
Dad.
I
Marry
honestly
a
can't
really funny
picture-
woman.
Yeah.
Marry a really
know,
funny woman.
I saw one quick story. I saw an interview with Lucille Ball when she was like older, maybe in her 50s. And long story short is she got fillings in her teeth, and she was
I saw
driving
this.
around during the 40s, like during the war, and she picked up Japanese spy radio signals in her fillings. She would drive up the road, and when she got to a certain spot, she like heard sounds coming out of her mouth. And she went to, I don't know who she talked to, someone at the studio. Who did she say she talked to? Buster Keaton? Someone. And he's like, do you have fillings? And she's like, yes, I just got them. It's like, yeah, you're picking up radio signals. So you might want to tell someone where you're picking that up.
Oh my God.
I
That is
know.
amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm related to
I was
her.
just gonna say, and Jeannie's related to
Yeah.
her.
Wasn't she also integral in getting Star Trek on the air?
She was.
She's
Like,
a
what a
hero.
will.
She's
I
a
mean,
true
so really we
American
should say,
hero.
what would Lucy do?
What
Yeah.
would Lucy
What would
do?
Desi do? He would marry a smart lady.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Now we know.
like all smart men do.
Like all smart women do. That's how you bring it home, Josh.
All
There we
right.
go. I love it. Well, it's good to be back.
It's
It
good
is.
to be back.
So
It's
good
good
to
to
be
be
back.
back to school.
Back to
right.
school for the Wi-Fi pod. This is Matt.
This is Jeannie.
Jessica here.
And it's Joshua.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.